Welcome to Your Wealthy Self with me, Regina Martinelli. This show is about money and a whole lot more. Here we focus on you being able to expand your capacity for money, success, and abundance, and inner wealth, for you to have what's important to you inside and out so that you can be your wealthy self. Today is also one of those days where we are going to talk about a whole lot more. Today, we're continuing our conversation on embracing life again after significant transition. Whether you saw that transition coming or not, it can still be an unsettling, upsetting, and life-changing in ways you never expected. I'm talking about all transitions from marriage to becoming a parent, divorcing, losing a parent or a loved one, having significant health issues, becoming an empty nester, or a job relocation or loss. And my guest today is Cathy, who is a transition expert, minister, and has an animal therapy team in helping people to transition. You'll want to stay until the end because she's going to give us actionable advice, practical tools, and heartfelt stories for embarking the transition that you're in. So I'm going to welcome her now. Hello, Cathy.
Hello, as my hair is blowing away. I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. I love this. So help me understand more about your animal therapy team. How do you use them for therapy, and how are they more impactful than just therapy?
Okay. So I use them to help people be grounded, if you understand what I mean by that.
Yeah.
So when you're with an animal, horses and dogs, just feeling their hair, just being with them, calm you, and they make you more present, right? And that's why they're used so well with kids that have autism or some learning disability, because it just makes you feel good, and it's because of their energy. They make you feel good.
Oh.
The animals make you feel good, right? Because they're unconditional, and they love you, and they want your attention, and they want you to hug them and pet them, and then they just give you feedback, and they just want you to be. So at the beginning, I just have Zebby. Zebby's my miniature horse. He's 38 inches. He's about 200 pounds. So he's really like a big, Great Dane. And then there's Theo, who's 19 pounds. He's a miniature Australian Shepherd. And I do different things with them. So both will go in hospitals with me. And if I have a certain patient that they want me to see, so Theo will be in a stroller, and I'll cart him in so he can be at the bed level.
Oh, that's sweet.
Right? Because otherwise I'd have to hold him, and that restricts him from doing what he does, which is just heal people. And it's amazing to watch.
Got it. Thank you. So let me ask you, what is your approach when a client feels completely stuck in their identity as a spouse or a parent or a certain professional, and they've lost that role?
So, meaning they've lost a child, they've lost a husband, they've lost
the job. Yeah.
We go through a process where they have to find themselves again. They have to know who they are without whatever they lost. And that's a lot of work. Some people at first are like, nope, I'm not dealing with it. And so they just kind of bug out. When people want to start changing, but they're like stuck, and I'm like, I don't even know where to start.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes to get through grief, I'll ask them, okay, can you, instead of telling me, I'll never have this, I'll never have that, can you tell me what you're thankful for that you had with them? So I bring them to thankfulness instead of I'll never have. Because that's our first instinct when we lose something. We're like, I'll never have that. We had plans to do this and this and this, and I'll never do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of, I love the time I had in Hawaii. I love the time that we had with whatever it is that you, and then it changes something. You can tell me if it changes something in your brain or not. I think it does, but it also changes stuff in your heart.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have them do that first. And then once they see more of a brighter side or a more positive side, it's like, I am so grateful I had them.
Mm.
And then I will go through, okay, so who are you without them? And that's a huge question.
Mm-hmm.
I had to go through that. Everyone has to go through that because when you lose somebody, they become a part of you. And you have to know who you are without them.
Mm.
Right?
That takes time. So, what's
It
the
takes
most
time.
challenging emotional barrier that people face when they're rebuilding from this profound loss or rebuilding who they are? What's the emotional
Emotional
barrier?
barrier,
Yeah.
not feeling that they'll ever be happy again.
Mm. Is it a fear or is it
Oh,
a
it's a
belief?
fear.
Yeah.
It's a belief and a fear
Mm.
to me
Yeah.
because the fear is I don't know what that looks like. I can't imagine that. So that's the fear. You always know you had, right? But it's like, oh, will I ever do that again? Will that ever be a part of me again?
Mhm.
Will I ever be happy again?
Mhm.
And then the belief, I think you have to set that belief and change that belief if you don't feel it's ever going to happen again, or I can never get over this, or I don't want to get over this. I think you have to set your intention to change that belief. That's where you come in.
Mhm.
That's what you do really well. So they have to know what they want,
Got
right?
it.
If they want to
So
get
how,
unstuck, they have to know where they want to go.
yes, yes, exactly. You have to know what you want. But how do you balance honoring someone's pain and then also gently more moving them towards this new vision for their life?
I've gotten a lot more empathetic in my life since all of my loss that I've had. And so I come from no judgment. I don't make
Mm.
it a you know, or you have to. I don't do that. I'll just ask questions that makes them think different to
Mm.
where they may want to do that next step instead of,
Mm.
well, you should be over this by now. And you
Mm.
just need to go out there and blah, 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 right? I've heard it all. I'm sure you have too. People are well intentioned, but a lot of times just losing someone or going through grief, it scares people. It scares our family. It scares our friends because they don't even know how to deal with it. We have not been taught to grieve well. And
Mm.
so, and that's one of the things I asked God when my husband died is like, God, you got to teach me to grieve well because I do not want to go through this life negative and not living my life because of losing my husband, right?
Mm. Right.
So, yeah, so I, I made that a desire, and I learned how to um, regain my joy and start dreaming again, which is
Mm.
you have to choose it, and you have to just make little baby steps towards it all the time.
Great. Thank you, Kathy. That is helpful. And then do you have any specific techniques that you use that help people struggle with the why me, the questioning after the loss? Like, do you have anything that helps them get through the why me and leave that behind?
To me, the why me is a victim mentality.
Hmm.
Life happens to everyone. We cannot get away from it. Loss happens to everyone. And I don't mean to be trite about it at all,
Mm.
but that's another choice. It's another
Hmm.
choice of how am I going to approach this? Am I going to be a victim? Yeah, you can have your pity party for a little bit, but you got to keep going. You got to move on. You can't just exist in your muck. And then I forgot what the other question was. I forgot what else we were talking about.
Yeah,
Sorry.
just looking like for techniques to help people get through the why me, so they can kind of leave the why me behind and really work on the me.
Right. Okay. So one thing I have them look at is people automatically. I think automatically we go, "Why me?" Right? We want to blame something. We want to. Um, but what's more important than the "why me" is what can I learn from it,
Mm.
and how can I help myself to be a better me than I was, and help other people and be able to empathize with other people and your story. Know your story, share your story, because people need to know that other
Mm.
people are going through the same thing.
And
And
it's
have it.
survivable.
It
Yeah.
is survivable, and you will encourage other people. They will encourage you because you share their story. They'll share their story, and you're like, "Well, how did you do it?" And then, "How did you do it?" So I usually just tell people how I got through a lot of it, and then I'll tell them, does that resonate at all? Is it something that you think you'd like to explore more? Right? So,
So, what are the signs that someone's actually really ready to move forward rather than just trying to escape their pain?
well, usually when they're trying to escape their pain, they use drugs, alcohol, um, food, TV, right? Because they're just existing.
Mm.
It's when they're like, "I don't want to live like this anymore. So, what do I do to get out of that?" And that's where more I come in. I will help
Mm.
during the trauma to ease them and stuff, but I like the people that want help and to be and grow from this experience. Anthony Robbins would say, "Life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you." And it's usually to boost you forward, right? And be who either the person you lost would want you to be. And I know I'm not the same person 10 years ago
Mhm.
that I am now. But I've chosen that path, and I knew that's what I wanted. I had no idea how far though I would get. So it's a choice. It's when they're ready to go. Okay, let me look at this. It took my daughter 7 years. She
Mm.
did not want to look at it. She's too afraid of the pain, and that's mostly the problem. People are so afraid of going through the pain to get to the other side, and unfortunately, that is part of grief.
Yeah. And what is that resistance? Do you think it's, for me, I feel like there's a part of our creature neurology brain that feels like we won't survive going through
Mm-hmm.
it because it feels like it's unsurvivable and then we're going to be annihilated or die if we're overwhelmed and crushed by it. And so we do whatever we can to avoid it. But rationally, we know people get through it. We've gotten through other losses, we've gotten through other things. But there's this creature neurology that takes over that we freeze. We're like, oh, we can't do that. We can't do that. So is that what you find too? Because getting through that part, I would think would be the hardest resistance right there. You know?
It is. It's the fear of. It is the fear of. It's too painful.
Yeah.
I don't want to touch it. I don't even want to live it. I don't want to live through it. Meaning, I don't want to relive it. Right? I don't want to relive the pain. I don't want to look at it.
Yes. And there's a place of, I don't know, just having compassion and forgiveness for ourselves. So
Mm-hmm.
how does forgiveness play in the process of your coaching?
It's a huge. It's one of the number one parts because you have to forgive and release and bless. Right?
Mm.
So when it's everything, It's not just grief, it's anything that comes at you. You take offense, you can't take it personally, and you have to forgive anything that's happening and release it. So you're not carrying it, not holding on to it. And then I'll ask them to bless whatever it is that they're going through, right? With the person or the circumstance. Because it just releases you and it just makes you more available to bring more things to you, good things to you. Instead of holding on, holding on, holding on. And if you don't forgive it, that's when people become bitter and hard.
Yeah. And would you say that there may even be, they need to have some forgiveness for the person who passed?
Oh, a lot of people have. How dare you leave me in this
Yeah.
situation? Whatever the situation is, yeah, they have to. I had to. I mean, there's certain situations, no relationship's perfect, right? So there's certain things that we would had done to each other, not really bad, but it's still little things that you're like, and that you just have to go through what it is that you feel you need to forgive them for and forgive them for leaving. And it's usually, I don't think anyone wants to die. It's not their choice. It wasn't, it was just their time, right? And then, so I had to forgive the gal that killed my husband, right? He was cycling and she ran a red light and T-boned him and killed him.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the hardest things for my daughters to do. Me, I know she's going to see him flying off his bike into her windshield and bouncing off that for the rest of her life, unless she deals with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have as hard a time forgiving her because I knew the trauma that she just experienced. And so if your focus is not always on you and what you're going through, but what others are going through, and that's a very unselfish act because we tend to be pretty self-absorbed. There is a beauty to that, and then there's a release, and then you just feel more love, you feel more fulfilled by doing that.
Thank you. So, how do you transform that kind of pain into purpose?
You ask a lot of questions. Well, for me, I did not want to take on my purpose. Right? I
You
thought,
don't want to
oh,
take on
I'll
your
just
what?
purpose
Oh,
my purpose. When I felt in my spirit that God's like, you're going to teach people to grieve well and you're going to help them heal. I'm like, yeah, right. No one likes to hear about grief. No one even likes grief at all. So it's the least, we're not taught how to grieve well in this society at all. Other regions do so much better with regards to grieving than we do. And I'm like, no one wants to hear that subject. God, what am I supposed to do with that? And so he just taught me, and I'm like, okay, I know. I gotta share it with others. And then he has my therapy team, so I'm like, okay. So it evolved.
yeah.
Mine evolved. But you also have to be willing to accept a new purpose.
Yeah. And I think you're right what you said before too. There's a thing about knowing yourself and then knowing what you
Mm-hmm.
want and what you kind of want to share with the world or what you want to share in your small world. So, how do you support clients with their secondary losses that ripple out from the primary loss, like the loss of friendships from not being a couple anymore, you know, being
Oh.
an only at a dinner party or
Mm.
being an empty nester? Like, how do you help them through that kind of, that's a big shift too with loss of community and or potential loss of community
Right.
because not all communities, but you know.
Yes. So I've been through all that.
Yeah.
You just have to know it's an evolution that when you do have loss, and even with divorce, because I did get remarried and I'm divorced now. you will lose the different friends that will go with them or with you, right? And then with the loss of a loved one, people don't always know how to deal with you. So you know that's going to happen. It's just a progression of things. And, people are in your life for a time and a season. Some are in your life forever. Some are just there to get you to another place. And then, so I just had to rebuild. Once I knew who I was and what I wanted, I had to rebuild friendships that I wanted and try and keep the friendships I had that I wanted to keep. But I had to clean house, and it just happens a lot of times, and you can't take it personally because it happens to everyone. It is not a personal thing like, oh, what did I do? No, you did nothing. It's kind of, I don't want to say
It's kind of the
cycle of life.
evolution of life.
Okay, cycle life, evolution. Because it happens. It happens with every different transition, right?
Yes. So, Cathy, how would you define a successful transition for someone? How do you know when it's been successful?
Oh, when they start living their life again, knowing who they are, going towards that goal, and if they're hanging around the right people that will help them, right? You've always been taught to show me your friends, I'll show you who you are. You've heard that, right? Have you heard that? Okay. So that's what I'm saying, clean house. I will have people clean house. Okay, you don't have to deal with that person if they're negative and they bring you down. You don't have to deal with that. Find someone else that's going to help lift you up, and you're going to make each other better. You're going to challenge each other. You're going to be better. And so when I know they've changed some of their, I'm going to say their psyche of how they're looking at things, and they have community that they are thriving in, I'd say that's
Wonderful. Thank you. So as we're getting ready to wrap up, Cathy, how do you live your wealthy self life?
Oh, that's a good question. Every day. Every day. I've really gotten to know who I am. I've gotten to know that I am what I am worth, and I am worth a lot, and that I love myself, and really just keep dreaming, keep thinking of what I want, how do I want to help other people, and what I would like to see happen in my life every day. I do not want to be a victim. I want to be a victor, and I want to be a blessing and a light to other people. So that's how I live my wealthy self.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Cathy, for being here with us today. And thank you for all the incredible work you do to guide women through these transitions in life so they can more fully embrace their life again. Find Cathy at catherinekaufer.com or also at embracinglifeagain.com. She is a host on her own E360 TV as well, called Embracing Life. So you can watch her on this channel and her animal therapy team. Thank you so much. If you got anything out of today and you are willing to share it with people to live something or provide help for them as well, please do it. Any questions, comments, or shares, please send them to Your Wealthy Self at E360 TV Live. And I love and adore you. You are an incredible, beautiful, and precious being. And please know you are enough just as you are. Until next time, have a great Your Wealthy Self life.